Hi guys. Well, just want to let you know I went to court today. Most of you know that I filed a motion to hold my ex-husband in contempt for not allowing me to see or speak to my daughter. As a matter of fact, as of today, it's been 17 months and 4 weeks since I've seen her. It's been 7 weeks since I have spoken with her. He has all my calls going straight to his voicemail, and that includes when that includes anybody's phone that he thinks I may be calling from. If I call from someone else's phone, another number, if he doesn't recognize it, he won't answer. Well, I filed the motion for contempt for him not letting me see her or speak with her. The original paperwork back in 2012, when she was 9 and she's 14 now, excuse me, there's never been a hearing since then. It was never reinvestigated. Nothing ever happened. The original paperwork, however, said that I was entitled to every other weekend, evenings, a couple hours after school hours during the weekday, I could have her. No holidays, no special occasions or special events, no birthdays, nothing unless it fell on, quote, my weekend. He is in contempt and in violation of the court order. This is why I held him in contempt, why I filed a motion for this. However, today, let me back up. I had requested that I either have the hearing continued or a continuance because of the fact that I didn't have an attorney. Now he has an attorney, but she was actually filing a counter motion, I guess you could say, against me, requesting of the judge that what they call a dismissal. In other words, he ignores my request to make my ex-husband follow the court orders. He had his attorney there today. I actually appeared by phone because I just didn't have a way to get to the courthouse. I had called and asked if I could get a continuance extended out to a later date, and they said that I wouldn't be able to do that, but I could appear by phone. I called. I was transferred to the courtroom, to the judge. And it went by very, very quickly. Excuse me. The first thing I said to the judge after he asked for my name and information was that I would like to have a continuance because I did not have my attorney present. And by the Federal Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights says that I have the right to be represented by an attorney in any court hearing. He then began talking with my ex-husband's attorney. She brought up the contempt papers that I filed, stating simply that this entire case needs to be reopened. I said that I wanted it reopened, reinvestigated, because this DCF worker back in 2012 took my daughter under false pretenses, is what they call them, after she determined that there was nothing to be concerned with as far as abuse. The original report was elderly abuse against my father. She said that there was no reason to believe that existed. My daughter was at the babysitter's. She went to the babysitter's house. The DCF worker or investigator spoke with my daughter. My daughter told her an innocent story that happened about her and my dad, and the DCF worker twisted it into my father, who was at the time 73 years old, has never had any kind of criminal record whatsoever, and she twisted it into him molesting my daughter. However, she never pursued that. There was already a court hearing for our divorce scheduled in March of 2013, prior to this investigation. They incorporated the entire DCF situation into the divorce hearing. 8 hours we were in the courtroom because the judge would not allow me a continuance and said that I had to move forward with examining and cross-examining my ex-husband's witness, which was the DCF worker who had not been involved in several months because she had closed the case a month and a half after she opened it. At that time, my ex-husband had actually kept me from my daughter at that point, seeing her and talking to her for 4 months. And I had to do research and do a lot of, gather a lot of information in order to prove to the school and others that I was allowed to see her because there was no court order or DCF case open. So the judge at the time told me that I had to, actually she didn't even tell me. I told the bailiff I didn't have an attorney because my attorney had bailed on me the night before the hearing. I told him I didn't have an attorney, and he said, I'll talk to the judge. Well, he came back, told me that the judge said if I had witnesses, which I did. I had my friend, my dad, and my, at the time, 17-year-old son. He said, she said, if you have witnesses, we need to move forward, and you need to examine and cross-examine your witnesses and his witnesses. Which, as I said, the only witness he had was a DCF worker who hadn't been involved in months. 8 hours was of that, which is how long the court hearing was completely about my daughter, her, what was, quote, in her best interest, and about, not even 5 minutes of it was, maybe about 2 minutes, was about our divorce, which that's what this court case was labeled under in the court website records, Kenberg records, as a divorce. Not a child custody hearing, not divorce, child custody, nothing. It was just divorce. And 8 hours of that, like I said, was dedicated to my daughter, everything about my daughter. The only thing that was mentioned about the divorce was his attorney stood up and talked to me when I was on the witness stand. Said, is this marriage irretrievably broken? I said, yes. He said, is there any possibility of being reconciled? I said, no. He walked away. The final judgment was put together by him, and then the judge just signed it, agreed to it. Now, I never got a copy of it. He said that he sent it to me, but he never did, the attorney. The final court order said all these things that I was entitled to and that I wasn't entitled to. Listed my address as my father's address. Said that my ex-husband was to pick up my daughter on the weekends that I had her. He was to pick her up at my residence, which was my father's address, because me and the kids had moved in with him after my ex-husband deserted us. At the point that DCF showed up, it had been 18 months that he had deserted me and my daughter. No contact and support or anything. He came because my 17-year-old son was panicking. He was scared. He didn't know what to do. He called my ex-husband at work, told him to come over, what was going on. My ex-husband talked to the DCF worker, exchanged contact information, left, and then the DCF worker, that's when she went to the babysitter's house, twisted the story my daughter told her, and then called my ex-husband to come get her. Okay, so the judge had ordered all these things for me to be able to see my daughter and talk to her. In the paperwork, it specifically says that I am entitled to call her every night, of course, except for the weekends that I have her, and then he's entitled to call her around 7:30. Now he's got me blocked from calling him. I went to the court today, back to the hearing today. I went to court over the phone, didn't have my attorney, told the judge that I wanted to have a continuance, that it was my constitutional right by the Bill of Rights to be able to have an attorney present with me, and as my ex-husband has an attorney to represent him, I would like to be given the same allowance to be able to utilize and exercise my federal constitutional rights of the United States. He didn't really say anything. He immediately turned to my ex-husband's attorney and then started talking to her, and she brought up the contempt, what I said in it about reopening the case, re-examining, and it mentioned everything that I put in there, which was fine. Because I know that if I had tried to, we wouldn't allow it because it was in the past, is what they usually say. So, she said that her client, meaning my ex-husband, wanted to go forward with the dismissal of not allowing me to see my daughter or talk to her. And the judge came back to me, asking me if I had anything else if I had anything to say now. And very quickly, I said, right in response, I said it as I said. Again, my ex-husband has an attorney to represent him. It is the United States Federal Constitution Bill of Rights for me as an American citizen. It is my right to have an attorney present at any hearing to represent me, and I'm standing firm on that. And I want a continuance so that I will be able to utilize my constitutional right of having an attorney present with me. He said, I'm denying this. Immediately, before I could even say anything else. And at the same time he was saying that, I said, I'd like to ask you something else, which was going to be, do you uphold the laws of the federal Constitution? He didn't give me a chance to even speak, and I said, may I ask you one more question? He said no, and immediately went back to my ex-husband's attorney. The only thing she said was that she had to pay for filing fees and the travel to get up here. And she wanted me to reimburse her for those expenses. He said, it was granted. He said he dismissed the hearing. He told her thank you, told me thank you, and hung up. The entire hearing today was probably, I'd say, 10 to 15 minutes. It went that fast. So, today, in a county courtroom in Pinellas County, not only was I not given the right that was already given to me, the entitlement to be able to speak to and see my daughter, but my constitutional rights as a United States American citizen, born and raised, my rights under the Bill of Rights to have an attorney present to defend me in a hearing, was violated by a county judge. And I do intend to go higher in the courts. This system is disgusting. And this is why I called the operation that we have put together Operation Hammer Down. I'm tired of this. A lot of people are very sick of this system taking children based on lies, false allegations, removing them when they do not have the authority to do so without a judge's say-so, and then a judge turning around and agreeing with it. The entire system needs to be broken down and recreated. There used to be nothing but the law. If you beat a child, the law was you went to jail. There was no such thing as family law. This is what needs to happen again. This is America. This is not a communist country. This is freedom. This is the country of freedom. It needs to start being that again. This system has to be broken down. Hundreds, maybe thousands of children are being victimized and abused by this system. Ripped away from loving families, loving mothers, loving fathers who do everything they can to take care of them. And whichever parent has the money to pay for an attorney, more often than not, that is the parent that ends up getting the child. Even if the parent has a recorded history of domestic violence, rape, murder, maybe not murder, okay, but I'm going to the extreme there. But if it's domestic violence, they're not even looking at it. My ex-husband admitted on the witness stand in front of the judge that he had beat me bloody several times in front of my daughter. He admitted to deserting her for 18 months with no contact and support. Yet this judge still found him to be the more fit parent. He also had an attorney, or his attorney, play a recording of me being Mama Bear, screaming at him and saying quite a few choice words that I probably should not have, but I was angry because at the time he had not let me see her. 4 months. She was ripped away from me. The last time I saw her was in the morning when I dropped her off at school. She said, "I love you." I said, "I'll pick you up. I love you too." The last time I saw her, and they used this against me. In the paperwork, it specifically says that I need to have a mental evaluation, and with, it was worded, with the proper psychological therapy, I would be able to handle issues of life better. This is not an issue of life, where children are ripped away from their families, from people, their parents who love them and take care of them the best that they can. This is not an issue of life. And I call this group Listen to the Children because they don't. When I asked why my daughter was not allowed to be on the witness stand, after she had specifically put on a video that I had made of her, "I don't want to live with my dad. He's mean. He didn't make mommy bleed." I was told that the reason why she couldn't speak was because some kids just might say, "Well, I want to live with mom because she buys me stuff." I told this woman that I spoke with on the phone who was telling me this, my daughter won't get up there and say that. She'll get up there and say, "My daddy beats my mommy and he's mean, and I don't want to live with him." Listen to the children. Listen to not just the words that they say, but listen to their emotions and to their hearts. Because these are the victims, more so than even the parents. The children are the ones who are suffering the most through this system's corrupt, disgusting, twisted way of doing things. This is pretty much, me wrapping it up now. This is how my court hearing went today. It was unjust. It was unconstitutional. My daughter has been brainwashed for 5 years, and even more so in the past year when my ex has had 100% custody, or 100% access to her, rather. She's against me. At 14 years old, she's completely against me, believing his lies, believing the system's lies. Where, at one point, when it all began, she could have told the truth of what she actually knew and witnessed, not just hearsay. And she wasn't given that opportunity. Listen to the children. I say that to DCF. I say that to the judges. I say that to parents. I say that to anyone who knows a child who has been victimized by this disgusting system. Okay, guys. I'm wrapping this up. Everybody have a blessed day. Thanks.